Welcome back, Mr. Safran. I should have only Simchas. Gesundheit und Freiligkeit. It's Parshas Pinchas this week, and reminds me of an old joke that the man once came to the shul and said he has to speak to the rabbi very urgently. So they showed him to the rabbi. He said, "Rabbi, you have to make me a kohen." So he said, "I can't make someone a kohen. You're either born a kohen, you're not born a kohen. I can't make you a kohen." So he said, "It's very important to me. I'll pay you £100. Make me a kohen." Rabbi said, "I'm sorry, nothing I can do. It's out of my control." So he said, "I'll get £1,000. I'm sorry, can't help you. £10,000. Can't help you." Finally, the rabbi turns to me and says, "Tell me, why is it so important for you to become a kohen that you're prepared to really put yourself out in this amazing way? What is it that's..." So he says, "I'll tell you the truth. My grandfather was a kohen. My father was a kohen. I also want to be a kohen." Yeah, that's the famous joke. Problem is that when we read this week's Sedra, it almost sounds like that joke. It starts off, Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen. Pinchas, the son of Elazar, the son of Aaron HaKohen. Heshev es Hamasi me'al bnei Yisrael, turned round my wrath upon the Jewish people. The Kanes Kanasi v'seicham by his zealousness. Lechilisi es bnei Yisrael b'Kanasi, and I did not destroy the Jewish people as a result of my anger. And Lachem, therefore, hineni noisin lo es brisi shalom. I'm going to give him my covenant of peace. And how is that covenant of peace going to manifest itself? That he and his children after him are going to have an eternal covenant of priesthood. Right? So his reward is going to be that he's going to become a kohen, he and his children after him. So the question is, we just said Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen. He was this Pinchas, the son of Elazar, the son of Aaron HaKohen. So if his grandfather was a kohen and his father was a kohen, he should also be a kohen, whether he did or didn't act in a zealous way. Right? He should have been born a kohen. And the answer, as our sages explain, is that when Aaron and his sons were inducted into the kahuna, they were anointed to be kohanim, so that applied to Aaron and his four sons, Nadav, Abihu, Elazar, and Isamar. They were all anointed to become kohanim. Aaron was anointed to become a kohen gadol, and Nadav, Abihu, Elazar, and Isamar were anointed to become ordinary kohanim. And all their offspring that will be born to them from that moment on will be kohanim. But Pinchas was born to Elazar HaKohen before this event. And because he was born before this event, and he was never anointed to become a kohen, he wasn't born to someone who was already anointed to become a kohen. He was born to someone who was going to become a kohen. For being born to someone who's going to become a kohen, you don't become a kohen. So therefore, Pinchas, had he not have taken the action that he took in the story of last week's Sedra, he would not have been a kohen. Because he took the action that he took in last week's Sedra to turn around Hashem's wrath from the Jewish people and be zealous for Hashem, therefore he merited that he and his children after him were given the covenant of eternal priesthood. The event happened in last week's Sedra, in Bola. Right? The reward is in this week's Sedra. Question was, did I say last week's Sedra? So I said that the event happened in last week's Sedra, and the reward is in this week's Sedra. So if that's the case, then we have another question. We know that there are certain things that can come as a reward for our service of Hashem. Right? A person serves Hashem properly, he can be rewarded in this world, rewarded in the world to come, but it's all things that it's possible to be a reward for. But there are certain things that are an essential part of the nature of the world, and they're not subject to change. For example, you can say that a person studied a tremendous amount of Torah, a tremendous amount of dedication, and he did a lot of mitzvahs and tremendous Ahavas Yisrael, and he completely divested himself from the physical realm and totally devoted himself to godliness. He could attain Ruach HaKodesh. That would be a possibility. We find in the time of the Beis Hamikdash you could even attain prophecy, you could attain nevuah. There were schools of Bnei HaNevi'im in the time of the Beis HaMikdash where they taught people how to divest themselves from the physical realm and reach the level of prophecy. What is going on? Someone's stuck in the lift, she's saying. Huh? Red means what? I mean, he's down. Kesselman is downstairs, no? Is it stuck or not? Mm-hmm. Okay. So you could reach Nevuah for a certain level of avodah. But kahuna, priesthood, is the only way to attain kahuna is by being born a kohen. If someone isn't born a kohen, that can stand on the head and spit wooden nickels, it's not going to make them a kohen. In fact, we had this already 2 weeks ago. Kairach wanted to become a kohen, Bikashtem Gan Kahuna. And Moshe Rabbeinu explained to him, HaKadosh Baruch Hu made boundaries in his world. Just like it says that the Eibishter divided, Hashem divided between light and darkness. God called the day light and the night darkness. And it's separated between light and darkness, between day and night. So it says, Aaron was separated from the rest of Shevet Levi, that he should be sanctified as Kedesh Kadoshim. So anyone who was not included in that initial event where Aaron and his sons were inaugurated and anointed as Kohanim, and their children after them, it's a natural phenomenon that the children that are born to a Kohen automatically become Kohanim. And if someone is not born to a Kohen, there is no possibility in the world of him becoming a Kohen. So what kind of a story is this, that Pinchas is rewarded to become a Kohen? It just doesn't make any sense. If he is a Kohen, he is a Kohen. If he isn't a Kohen, he isn't a Kohen. It's part of the nature of the world that a person who's born a Kohen is a Kohen, a person who's not born a Kohen is not a Kohen. Yes?
Supposing a man's a Kohen and he's got sons, but he decides to convert to Christianity, okay? Would his son still be Kohen?
He would still be a Kohen, and his sons would still be a Kohen. And he would be forbidden. He would be forbidden to do any of the things that are. He would be forbidden to do any of the things that a Kohen is not permitted to do.
He can't do.
He can do. Okay, that's a separate problem. But that doesn't affect his children. But he's still forbidden from coming in contact with the dead. He's still forbidden from marrying a woman that a Kohen is not allowed to marry. That doesn't change. The halacha doesn't change for a yid who shmatzes. He's still a Jew. A Jew is always a Jew. It would be good if we had a phone number for Kessel. Let me call Rabbi Simon and see. He's not downstairs? Rabbi Kesselman is not downstairs?
No, I went down the road.
Okay, let me call Rabbi Simon. See if he'll answer the phone.
Is someone in the room?
Pat. He's not answering the phone.
He didn't panic yet. I don't know what they do.
They usually do something downstairs, no?
No, I've seen them do something. It's this. Should I go press?
I'm going to call. I'll see if Steiner will answer her phone. Maybe she knows his phone number. She surely knows. She'll give it to him. What's his first name? What's his first name?
Is it Snare?
Sure. Hello, I'm sorry to disturb you. Oh, okay. I found what I need. Thank you. You able to help her?
What did you do? You keep throwing the.
Is it working now? Is it working now?
Yeah. Which way did you turn?
How do we prevent that from keep happening?
I turned the key.
No, she's coming.
How did she get?
How'd she get out?
The crosser. Oh, she's not.
So, as we say, a Jew answers a question with a question.
I just saw something like there was I heard it or I saw it that in the morning when they say Rabbi used to say that any coin only la ducha may be on it. If I'm not that coin, still I'm going to be.
I'm not familiar with it.
No.
I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm not familiar. So the the Gemara says in Parshas, the person who sees Pinchas in his dream, it means Pella Nasaloi, a wonder will happen to him. So if you see Huna in a dream, Nes Nasaloi, to have a miracle happen to him, and Rashi explains because Huna has a nun for Nes. Chanina and Chananya have two nuns, will be Nisin. The Gemara says, Pinchas Machalem, if he sees Pinchas in a dream, he'll have a Pella Nasaloi, he'll have a wonder happen. And Rashi says, Kavesha Nasal of Pinchas, like it happened to Pinchas. As the Gemara says in Sanhedrin, we're very sorry that you had that experience. We're very sorry that you had that experience.
Very much. Everyone's wonderful. We don't need that very long.
Shneir went out for a minute to buy something, and he wasn't. Anyway, so the question is, what is a Pella? How is a Pella different from a Nes? Pella means a wonder. A person who sees Pinchas in his dream, Pella Nasale, a wonder will happen to him. A wondrous experience will happen to him. Something wondrous. Yeah? So the question is, how is that different from a miracle? A miracle is also something wondrous, right? So what's the difference between a Nes and a Pella? And why does it say that if a person sees Pinchas in a dream, Pella Nasale? In fact, and Rashi says, Kamesha Nasale Pinchas, Kedisa B'Sanhedrin. Like it happened to Pinchas, like it says in the Gemara Sanhedrin. We look in the Gemara Sanhedrin, the Gemara says that Pinchas experienced 6 miracles. In the process of doing what he did, it was a very dangerous thing that he did. Zimri could have defended himself. And he could have killed Pinchas. The Shevet Shimon could have ganged up on him and killed him. He did something very dangerous. And 6 miracles happened in the process of what Pinchas did. So, but the Gemara doesn't say use the word wonders. The Gemara says 6 miracles. And Rashi says in Chumash, Harbe Nisim Nasu. Many miracles happened. Again, he uses the word Nisim. So why does the Gemara say that Haraya Pinchas B'Chalaymai Pella Nasu? Something wondrous will happen. So generally the explanation is that there's 3 levels. There's Teva, nature. Right? The Eibishter created the world to run according to the rules of nature. Every single creation has its natural order, natural behavior. Obviously, day is going to be light and night is going to be dark. The sun is going to go from east to west. Water is going to be cold and refreshing, and blood is going to be red and thick. And that's the way the world is going to conduct itself is going to be according to the rules of nature. Then you have a miracle. When Hashem transcends the world rules of nature, and demonstrates that he can override nature and stop nature. So the sun can stop, as it did in the time of Yeshua. It's possible for water to turn to blood, as it did in the time of Makas Dam, if Hashem decides to make a miracle. The Yamsuf, which is flowing water, can stand like a wall. We say in Yashir that flowing water stood like a wall. That's a miracle. And then there is Pella. Pella means not that there's a specific miracle. It means that there's a conduct which is totally wondrous. It completely is out of the box. It's got nothing. A miracle means normally things work in a natural system. And on a specific occasion, Hashem overrode nature and put in a miracle. Pella means there's a wondrous conduct which is completely out of the realm of nature. This can exist in the way that Hashem runs the world. It can also exist in the way that we behave. If a Jew serves Hashem properly, does everything he's meant to do, doesn't do what he's not meant to do, but it's all in accordance with his nature, and it's according to reason. In a reasonable way, he serves Hashem properly. And Hashem will reward him by directing the laws of nature in his favor. As the Pasuk says, if you will walk in my statutes, I will give you rain in its proper time. So rain is a natural phenomenon. It doesn't say I'll send down manna from heaven. I'll give it your rain in a proper time, and your field will be irrigated, your grain will grow, and you'll have prosperity. So if we conduct ourselves in a manner which is serving Hashem according to our nature, Hashem will reward us in a natural means. Then there is the concept of a miracle. A miracle in a person's service of Hashem means when a person transcends their nature. They go above and beyond their natural self. They go against their character. Or they put their life in jeopardy for the service of Hashem. That's called a nes in Avodas Hashem. And Hashem rewards such a person with a miracle. Like we find in the Gemara, certain stories about people that did things that were exceptional, really put themselves out beyond their nature or put their life on the line, and they were rewarded with an incredible miracle. But then there is a third level. And the third level is Pella. That is a person who his relationship with Hashem is not that generally he serves Hashem according to his nature, and when circumstances demand, he goes out of his nature and does a miraculous act, an unusual act. In other words, when a certain circumstance develops, he checks, how am I supposed to respond to this situation? Should I continue to act according to my nature, or should I go above and beyond and do a miraculous act? And if the matter demands a miraculous act, he goes ahead and does a miraculous act, and therefore Hashem rewards him with a miracle. But then you have a situation where a person becomes Pella. His devotion to Hashem, his passion and dedication to Hashem is beyond all limitations. He's living in a realm which is completely higher than any limitations. There is no nature that he has to override. He doesn't have a nature. His life is dedication to Hashem and the will of Hashem beyond all. No, there's no questions asked. His whole life is Mesiras Nefesh for Hashem. That's Pella in Avodas Adam, in the service of man. And that is reciprocated by Hashem treating that person in a way of Pella. Not just by making a miracle or 2 miracles or 5 miracles or 6 miracles, but by treating him in a way which is completely wondrous. And that's also the reason why the Gemara uses the singular, Pella in the singular, rather than plo'os in the plural. Because we're not talking about 1 miracle, 2 miracles, 3 miracles. We're talking about a totally wondrous relationship, completely out of the realm of nature. And that automatically will manifest itself in many miracles, because you're outside of the realm of nature completely. So when the Gemara says, Hareya Pinchas b'chaloymei Pella nasaloi, what the Gemara is saying is that the 6 miracles that the Gemara in Sanhedrin enumerates that happened to Pinchas, or the many miracles that Rashi refers to in Chumash, were not individual miracles, this miracle, that miracle, the other miracle. It was Pinchas was in a state of Pella, and therefore Hashem related to him in a manner of Pella. What do we mean Pinchas was in a state of Pella? Pinchas was obviously so passionate and so devoted that when he saw what he saw, he had to react. He can't, of course, he asked the Shaila, he asked the Moshe, he went to Moshe and he asked, didn't you teach us that in such circumstances this is the way to respond? And Moshe, excuse me one second. Hello? 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 Sorry. And Moshe answered him, yes, that is correct, that is the way to react. And Moshe said that you're the one who read the letter, so you should be the one to carry it out. But the fact that he even asked the question, the halacha that if someone sees such an event taking place, he should take the law in his own hands, is a halacha ve'ein moirin king. It's halacha which is not, a Rav doesn't pass it like that. It's the halacha. Somebody learned the halacha, he knows it, it's his good luck. But it's not something that we propagate. And if one asks a shaila, not necessarily will one be instructed to behave that way. And according to the Yerushalmi, one will be instructed not to behave that way. But and Pinchas knew that he was putting his life on the line. And he knew that there were so many different possibilities how he could lose his life as a result of this. And who says that there's an obligation to give your life up for such an act? Furthermore, he saw Moshe Rabbeinu standing there and crying and not acting. So we know that the reason that happened, our sages tell us, is because the Eibishter made Moshe Rabbeinu forget the halacha, so that Pinchas could come along and do what he did and receive his reward. But Pinchas didn't know that. He didn't know the reason Moshe wasn't acting because Hashem had withdrawn that memory from Moshe in order for Pinchas to act. Pinchas saw that Moshe wasn't acting. Perhaps it's not the right thing to do. But he was so passionate with his devotion to the Torah and the Eibishter, and that he acted in a way that was an expression of his incredible passion. So in other words, his love for Hashem and his love for the Jewish people and his love for Torah was completely above and beyond. So he was in a state of Pella. And therefore, what happened to him was Pella Naso. Hashem treated him in a manner of Pella. Pella means where it's completely wondrous, which means the impossible became the possible. So what was our question at the beginning of the Shiur? Our question at the beginning of the Shiur is, if you're not born a Kayin, it's impossible to become a Kayin. True. But by Pinchas, the impossible became possible. Because his conduct and his devotion to Hashem was in such a manner that he was in a total state of Pella, therefore Pella means it's totally wondrous. There's no such thing as impossible. The impossible becomes possible. So it's true that for a non-Kayin to become a Kayin is impossible. But when you behave in a way like Pinchas behaved, where the impossible becomes possible in one's Avodas Hashem, then the impossible becomes possible as far as the reward is concerned. And this is actually connected with Yud Beis Yud Gimel Tammuz that we're just coming from. This Shabbos and Sunday was the 12th and 13th of Tammuz, when we celebrated the 99th anniversary of the Frierdiker Rebbe's liberation from Soviet prison, from his exile after his imprisonment in Stalinist Russia, where he was Meiser Nefesh. He put his life on the line to preserve Torah and Yiddishkeit in the Soviet Union, despite the totalitarian regime's commitment to obliterate Yiddishkeit, and using every means at their disposal to make sure that Yiddishkeit gets obliterated. And nevertheless, the Frierdiker Rebbe stood with Mesiras Nefesh in a way which was completely beyond reason. And he put his life on the line, and in his own words, the greatest Mesiras Nefesh was not putting his life on the line. The greatest Mesiras Nefesh was putting other people's life on the line. Can you imagine what it meant that when he sent a shliach to a community to see that there should be a malamed and there should be a sheikh, and that person was arrested, and in some cases sent to Siberia, not knowing whether he would ever return, and in some cases shot. I mean, we know people whose fathers were shot in such circumstances. People who knew Ben Sion Shagalov. Sion Shagalov's father was a double criminal. He was a moil and a malamed. And he was arrested and shot. And they didn't even have the decency to tell his family that they shot him. And his wife was an aguna for 60 years. And the Frierdiker Rebbe, in such circumstances, immediately sent someone else to replace him. And he said that was the greatest act of the most difficult thing for him was to put somebody else's life on the line. But he knew that the only way that to be able to preserve any element of Yiddishkeit in the Soviet Union is with absolute Mesiras Nefesh. And therefore, he didn't ask any questions. He just went all the way and did everything that needed to be done to make it happen. Excuse me, I'm sorry about this. Hello, can you hear me? What are you saying? Okay.
What we have to understand, if it wasn't for what you're talking about, even before Stalin, but going back to
Tsarist Russia.
If it wasn't for the Shiur, a lot of us wouldn't be here.
So
that's even further back.
I was yesterday at a wedding of a young man. He lives in Berlin, or Dresden, near Berlin, but his family is Russian. They came to Germany in 1990 when a lot of Russian Jews came to Germany. They have their generations and generations of totally, completely no Yiddishkeit. Generations. And this young man found his way back to Yiddishkeit. He is beautiful. It's just incredible. He got married to a wonderful girl from Edgeware, setting up a Hasidic home together. His father told me at the wedding, this is the first time in my life I'm at a Jewish wedding. And I heard from someone that the son was his father's sandik. In other words, he convinced his father, after he got involved in Yiddishkeit, he convinced his father to have a bris, and he was the sandik at his father's bris. So this is this wondrous beyond wonders. And the Mesiras Nefesh that was displayed by the Frierdiker Rebbe and the Shluchim that he inspired in the Soviet Union at that time when it was just so difficult was paid off in the most remarkable way. I mean, the miracles of Yud Beis Yud Gimel Tammuz themselves, the fact that the Frierdiker Rebbe wasn't shot as it was originally the plan, and it said on his case, death by firing squad, and then that was changed to 10 years of hard labor in the Isles of Solovki, which also wasn't implemented miraculously. And then it was changed to 3 years exile in Kostroma, which he did travel to Kostroma. He was supposed to go there for 3 years and ended up being there 1 week. Because after a week, he was told that central government in Moscow had instructed that he should be liberated. And then the Frierdiker Rebbe was able to leave Russia and use his influence from outside the country to keep Yiddishkeit going in Russia, even in a more powerful way than he was able to do within Russia. And that continued. And the fact that with the fall of the Soviet Union, there was still a little burning ember of Yiddishkeit in Russia was clearly a result of that Mesiras Nefesh, and the flourishing of Yiddishkeit today in Russia. It's just unbelievable. It's just the most amazing thing. So this is the idea of when there is Mesiras Nefesh. The Frierdiker Rebbe's Mesiras Nefesh wasn't. We know that there's 3 mitzvahs you have to be Mesiras Nefesh for. One of them is not establishing chadarim. One of them is not sending shachtim. One of them is not establishing mikvahs. One of them is not having yeshivas. They're not mitzvahs they have to be Mesiras Nefesh for. But the Frierdiker Rebbe didn't ask any shilas. And he went with absolute Mesiras Nefesh, with a passion that was beyond all limitation. And so that's the same idea as we have in this week's Seder about Pinchas, was Pella Nasaloi. His Avodas Hashem was in a manner of Pella, and therefore his reward was in a totally wondrous way. As we said before, that even though it's impossible for a non-Kayin to become a Kayin, the impossible became possible.
Not because this is the full case. It was in Shiur, and they asked somebody who's supposed to mitzvah to come and for the children's service. And then he goes, I'm not a Kohen. And half an hour later, his father's up on the lesson.
I don't know the details. The question was about someone whose fathers are Kohen, but the child, the son was asked to duchen in the children's service, and he said he's not a Kohen. Huh? Right. So first of all, Mr. Soffer says he might have been adopted. And again, there's a question of whether Maybe he didn't say the truth. I don't know. But the fact is that if everything's in order, if the father's a kohen, the son's okay.
So whether he likes it or not.
Whether he likes it or not. In fact,
He might not have a Jewish mother.
No.
well, if there's issues with the mother, then it's another story.
No, this is.
Okay. Anyway, I'll tell you a story that I heard once. There was a kohen who wanted to marry, I think a giyadis or a divorcee. I'm not sure exactly what the situation was. Someone who a kohen is not allowed to marry, and he wanted to relinquish his kahuna. I don't want to be a kohen anymore. And he went to see the Rebbe, and the Rebbe's room. Those who were there know that all the walls are with bookshelves with svarim, full of svarim from floor to ceiling. The Rebbe looked at him and said that if I knew everything written in every one of these books, backwards and forwards, it still wouldn't make me a kohen. And you, the Almighty, gave you this incredible privilege that you're a kohen. Don't take it lightly. A kohen can defile his kahuna by behaving in a way which is inappropriate for a kohen, but he cannot cease to be a kohen.
Was he still serving the base on the
If he does what a kohen is not allowed to do, no. He defiled his kahuna. Unless he does tshuva. Yes.
This isn't a question, it's a comment. I understand the freedom the Rebbe have a mission, but when you said this one, I don't know if it was about
Shliach, yeah.
it was sharp.
Not one, there were more than one.
And the freedom Rebbe immediately sent someone else up, knowing he could be shocked too. So
it was this circuit.
It was taking a tremendous responsibility.
It was taking a tremendous responsibility, and the other option was to allow Yiddishkeit for 6 million Yidden in Russia to be completely obliterated. And Friedrich Rebbe felt that under the circumstances, you remember Rebbe Tzien Shem Tov. So Rebbe Tzien Shem Tov was one of 10 individuals who the Friedrich Rebbe called in, and there was a minion. And he said, I want to make a covenant with you that you will fight to the last drop of blood for the preservation of Yiddishkeit. So this was a war. In a war, you send soldiers out to the front, even though you know that they're endangering their lives.
They must have been very brave.
They were very brave, and they were very committed and very dedicated and very mekusher to the Rebbe, and believed that doing what the Rebbe wants them to do is the most important thing in the world. And they did it, and at the end of the day, the success is unbelievable. So the Friedrich Rebbe was a little man standing up to the most powerful regime, totalitarian regime in the whole environment. And you could think to yourself, here you have Stalin, such a powerful man who has at his disposal crushing powers, and he have a little Friedrich Rebbe who's standing up to him. What are the chances of who's going to win over here? And we look today, 99 years later, what is left of Stalin? And what is left of what the Friedrich Rebbe stood for? So Lubavitch and Yiddishkeit today are a flourishing, growing movement across the globe. And Stalinism in Russia is dead, and Stalin himself is nobody today respects what Stalin achieved. And it's similar to another story that we all know, and that was Avraham Avinu was a little boy, and he stood up against Nimrod, who was the most powerful king of his time, right? And what chance does a boy like Avraham Avinu have against the most powerful king, right? And now, how many people do you know that get up every morning and say Elokei Avraham, Elokei Yitzchak, or Elokei Yaakov? How many people do you know that get up every morning and say Elokei Nimrod? So when you look at something at the moment, sometimes it's very overwhelming. But if you realize that it's part of a big picture, it's a whole different story.
The picture is very overwhelming. It's hard to read. It's hard to read it.
Because the picture is not yet complete.
Can I ask you something which might sound stupid, but how can you see Pinchas or Hanina in a dream doesn't mean the word. You wouldn't recognize that.
Okay, this is discussed in the Mefarshim. It's quite a complicated matter. Question was, what does it mean? You see Huna in your dream, you see Hananya in your dream, Hanina in your dream. Do you see the words written, or do you see the person? It's a whole discussion in the Mefarshim. I guess if the Eibishter wanted you to recognize him, you'd recognize him. But I know it's very complicated, and I don't want to attempt to deal with it on one foot. Especially, I haven't done the proper preparation to. I remember at a previous occasion, I learned through the Sikha, and I worked through. I looked up the Parshas a little bit, but at the moment, I'm not in a position to answer. Okay, we're going to move on to Tanya. A Bas Kayin has a very big chashivus, very, very, very big chashivus. In fact, a Bas Kayin has to marry a Talmud Chacham. She shouldn't marry an Am Haaretz. And there were people who asked the Rebbe in connection when a shidduch was suggested with a Bas Kayin. The Rebbe said at least he should learn one entire Masechta before the marriage. He shouldn't be considered an Am Haaretz. And there are in the matnos kahuna, in the gifts that one gives to a kayin, there are certain matanos that one can give to a bas kayin as well. Reishis hagez, the shearing the wool, the first shearing goes to a kayin, that can go to a bas kayin as well. If a person shechts an animal, there are 3 parts of the animal that have to be given to the kayin, so that can be given to a bas kayin. And when it comes to the pidyon haben, a Bas Kayin doesn't. If a Bas Kayin gives birth to a Bechor, there's no Pidyon Haben. Also a Bas Levi, right? Sticking up for the Leviim. There's actually one case in which a Bas Levi has one up over a Bas Kayin. That is that if, God forbid, a Bas Kayin has a child from a non-Jew, the child has to have a Pidyon Haben. Has to have a Pidyon Haben, even though his mother's a Bas Kayin. Because by having a relationship with a non-Jew, she's defiled from the Kuhun. But a case of a Bas Levi has a relationship with a non-Jew and has a child from a non-Jew, the child does not have a pidyon haben, because his mother's a Bas Levi, and a Bas Levi doesn't become defiled under any circumstances.
She doesn't give anything to her children.
The children go after the father. The daughter of a Kayin. Bas means the daughter of. So Bas Kayin is the daughter of a Kayin, and Bas Levi is the daughter of a Levi. Okay, so in Tanya, I believe we're ready to start a new chapter. If I remember correctly, we're up to Perek Zayin, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Page Yud Aleph on numbers on top of the page, and 26, the numbers on the bottom of the page. That sound right? Yeah? Okay. So we were discussing last week that we have Kedusha and Klipa. It's Yud Aleph on top of the page and 26 numbers on the bottom. Perek Zayin, chapter 7. So we were discussing that we have 2 general departments, Kedusha and Klipa, holiness and unholiness, holiness and impurity, right? So holiness is that which is subservient to Hashem. Unholiness is that which is not subservient to Hashem. So Kedusha is act of a mitzvah is Kedusha, study of Torah is Kedusha, a Yid is Kedusha, Neshama is Kedusha, a Malach is Kedusha. Anything which recognizes and expresses its subservience to Hashem is Kedusha. Something which is, I'm here. No about Hashem, doesn't interest me. I know about myself. That is Klippa. And it's Klippa and Sitvach. How does it get its nourishment? How does it get its life force? So we said it comes from the hinder part of godliness. As opposed to Kedusha that gets Yor Hashem Panavelech, Hashem shines its countenance upon Kedusha. When it comes to Klippa and Sitvach, they get their nourishment from the Acharayim, from the hinder part of Kedusha. Like someone has to give something to someone that he doesn't like, doesn't want to look at him, so he throws it over his shoulder. In the same way, the chayis, the life force coming from godliness to Klippa, comes in a way of Acharayim. But then we learned that in Klippa itself, there's 2 categories. There is the lower Klippa, which is completely evil. And that is Shalish Klippas Hatmeis Lerois Lagamri, the 3 Klippas that are totally impure and totally evil. And then we have klipas noiga, the transparent klipa, which is an intermediary, and that is the source of things that are kosher, they're acceptable, they're just not naturally subservient to godliness. But if you use them in a manner that makes them subservient to godliness, then you can elevate them from klipas noiga into kedusha. And in the last chapter, we started off by talking about the three klippas that are tmeis v'rois l'gamri, that are completely impure and completely evil. And we said that this is described in the charity of Yechezkel as the ruach sa'ara, the storm wind, the onan gadol, the great cloud, and the eshmis lakachas, and the flaming fire. And it said that from this shalosh klippas atmeis come the souls and the bodies of the nations of the world. As well as the souls and the bodies of forbidden, non-kosher animals, birds, reptiles, whatever they are. They all come from Shalosh Klipas Atmeis. And we said that forbidden foods from the vegetable kingdom, like arla, those they are both the grain and the grapes. In a case where grain is growing in a vineyard, that all becomes Shalosh Klipas Atmeis, as well as
when sometimes you have from farms, wind blow the seeds that come in the beneficial seeds, does that also would be a flood?
There's an entire section in halacha about kilei hakerem. It's not a simple matter. If there's a shaila, one has to ask a rav, just like in any other section of halacha. Some cases it's permissible, in some cases it's not permissible. We spoke about grain and grapes growing together in one. So the question was asked: what if a wind blows and some seeds come over from one field into another? So I said there are certain circumstances where that will be okay, and certain circumstances where it won't be okay. Just like if a little bit of milk falls into a fleishik pot, there are certain circumstances where it's okay, and certain circumstances it's not okay. You always have to ask it.
It depends how many.
Depends how what. It depends what happened by mistake. Did it not happen by mistake? Was it noticed? Was it not noticed? There's all kinds of halachas that are. We just concluded this week Sefer Zroim in the Rambam, the book of agricultural laws. And one entire section is the laws of Kilayim, and there's a lot of complicated halachas there. So it would be, it wouldn't be the right thing to think that we can sort it all out on one foot. So, and the same thing we said is that actions, speech, and thought, which are forbidden, the doing something which the Torah forbids, speaking something which the Torah forbids, and thinking something which the Torah forbids, what gives life force, what gives vitality to those actions and to those speech and those thought is the shalosh klipas atmeis. And now in Perek Zayin, we're going to switch over to the other side of the coin, which is klipas noiga, the transparent klipa. And I think I might have explained this in the last year, but I think this helps get clarity in the matter. There's a mitzvah of Anochi Hashem Elokech, accepting the authority of Hashem. Hashem is the creator, he's in charge, right? I am the Lord your God. It's one of the 613 mitzvahs. There's another mitzvah, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. What is that mitzvah? Mitzvah of Achdus Hashem, the oneness of Hashem, which according to the Baal Shem Tov and according to the Chassidus understands it is the mitzvah to believe that Hashem is one and only and there's nothing else. As the pasuk says, "V'yadata hayom," you shall know this day, "V'asherei levavecha," take to heart, Hashem hu alikim, Hashem is God, B'shamayim yimal, v'al aretz mitachas, in heaven above and in earth below, ein oid, there's nothing else. Nothing else. It's only Hashem and nothing else. Now, when it comes to an act or a discussion or a thought which is not relevant to the service of Hashem, yeah, I'm going for a stroll, not because I need to clear my mind to be able to study Talmud, but because I like to stroll. Nice weather, I want to go for a stroll. Or I'm going shopping, not because I'm buying food for Shabbos, not because I'm buying food so that people can have strength to serve Hashem. I'm going shopping because I want to go shopping because I like what they're selling in the shop. Yeah? So there's nothing forbidden with those actions. But they are a distraction from Ein Oid, from there's nothing else except Hashem. Right? I'm focused now on something else other than Hashem. So that challenges the concept of Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. It doesn't challenge Anochi Hashem Elokecha. I'm not disobeying Hashem. I'm not telling Hashem, you can't tell me what to do. But I'm forgetting that Hashem is the only existence. So an act that challenges, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, Hashem, you're not in charge. Who are you? Who are you to tell me what to do? I'll do what I want. I have to eat kosher? I can eat non-kosher. I have to work on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I want to work on Shabbos. So that is Shalosh Klipas Hatmeis. That is 3 totally impure klipas. That's a rejection of Hashem's authority completely.
I want to sound something. Are you saying that everything we do has to be the Prophet Hashem?
I'm saying it has to be. I'm saying if we are trying to live our lives in the spirit of Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, Hashem is one and only, and there's nothing else besides Him, then everything that we do should be related to our service of Hashem.
We are very hungry.
Well, we have to work on it, each and every one of us, according to our ability. Hashem doesn't expect of us beyond what we can do. But the more we're aware of the fact that Hashem is the only real existence, and everything exists only for the sake of honoring Hashem and making Hashem's presence felt in everything in the world, so the more we're aware of that, the more we're naturally going to be driven in that direction. I always give a mashal of a person who's going to run in a marathon, an Olympic marathon, in 6 months' time. Yeah? And he wants to win. The whole Great Britain is looking to him to win against the rest of the world. Yeah? And he has 6 months to get himself ready. So obviously, he's going to go to a dietitian. And he's going to find out what's the perfect diet that he has to follow in order to be as fit as possible to be able to win this race. He's going to do his training every day, right? And he's going to make sure to sleep enough hours every night so that he's fit to do his training and to eventually get to the point where he can do the marathon and win it. Correct? And everything that he's going to do is going to be circling around this one point. I need to win that marathon, right? So if that's the most important, if that's like the very important thing in his life, then automatically everything around it is going to circle around it. His eating, his sleeping, his exercising, his relaxing, everything. There's nothing in his life that's not for the purpose of winning this marathon. That if for us, making the world a dwelling place for Hashem is the end all and be all, bringing Mashiach is the end all and be all. So if we're fully engaged, fully involved, fully dedicated, and fully devoted, then obviously everything we do from the minute we get up in the morning till the minute we go to sleep at night will be either directly or indirectly for the purpose of achieving this, unless we're getting distracted. If we're getting distracted, and that distraction is a distraction from Eino Ed Milvadei. So if it's Chas v'Shalom, we're forgetting and doing something forbidden, then we're not just distracted from Eino Ed Milvadei, we're also distracted from Anochi Hashem Elokecha. We've forgotten that Hashem is in charge. But if we remember that Hashem is in charge, but we sometimes forget that there's only Hashem and nothing else. So that's Klipas Neiga. Those actions are Klipas Neiga. And in a very subtle way, that's a form of idolatry. Because you're serving something else other than Hashem. You're serving yourself. So the self becomes the Avodah Zarah. Right? You're not going to get shot at dawn and Bezdin for that. Not that type of Avodah Zarah. But in a subtle way, if you want to be really honest with yourself, it's a form of Avodah Zarah. You're serving yourself. And true devotion and dedication to Hashem is the setting the self aside for the purpose of Hashem. I'm sorry, what? People go on holiday because they need to be refreshed in order to be able to serve Hashem. Or people go on holiday because it's good for their marriage, and which is something which is very important in the service of Hashem. Hashem wants to be served by families that are healthy, that are healthy and united. People go on holiday for the sake of giving their children a positive experience, so that the children can have a good relationship with their Yiddishkeit. Those are all valid reasons why people should go on holiday. If a person is going on holiday only because I enjoy it, and Hashem is out of the picture, then you're 100% right. Yeah? We're communicating?
How do we achieve this oneness with Hashem? And you were saying other weeks we should study Torah every day, but I seen in my Siddur that Torah is read on Mondays and Thursdays. So
a very good question. Okay, so the question was, I mentioned in a previous year that one of the ways that we can be refreshed in this attitude of only Hashem and nothing else is by studying a little Torah, a little bit of Hasidus every day. This is what I trust you that I must have said that if you're quoting me. The question was that she said in the Siddur that we only read the Torah on Shabbos, Monday, and Thursday. So the answer is that when we speak about reading the Torah, we're talking about taking out the Torah scroll, the written law, and reading it publicly from the Torah scroll for the entire congregation. Studying Torah on one's own is something completely different, right? So essentially, one should study Torah regularly. And that's one of the ways that one knows what one should be doing. So even in the case that women don't have an obligation to study Torah for the sake of studying Torah, but they still need to be studying Torah in order to know the halacha of how they have to serve Hashem. And especially when it comes to the study of Chassidus, it's important because the only way that we can fulfill the mitzvah of Anochi Hashem Elokecha that we just mentioned now, that I am the Lord your God, and the mitzvah of Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokecha Hashem Echad, After Hashem, which are not time-bound at all, and therefore they're equally incumbent upon women as they are upon men. And the mitzvah of V'ahavtas Hashem Elokecha, you should love the Lord your God. And the mitzvah of Hashem Elokecha Tira, you should revere Hashem. All those mitzvahs can only be fulfilled if you are continuously in interacting with the study of Chassidus. And therefore that is important and as regularly as one can. And that's completely unrelated to what you brought up about reading from the Torah scroll in public, Shabbos, Monday, and Thursday.
What did the generations do before the revealing of Hasidus? They didn't say, we had Torah, and they didn't have.
It's a very good question. Okay, the question was, how were all these mitzvahs fulfilled before the revelation of Hasidus? Right? Baal Shem Tov was only 250, 300 years ago. Yeah, it's a very good question. The answer is that they were higher neshamas, they were more in touch. And when they read in the Chumash, they got the message. And we are getting closer to Mashiach. So on one hand, we are lower in the neshamas, we're lower down in and we're not so naturally sensitive to these concepts of Einoid. We need to be continuously reminded. And also we have the privilege of the revelation of a taste of the teachings of Mashiach, which is, Mashiach is going to teach the secrets of Torah. And we're now in the Erev Shabbos, and Erev Shabbos we already taste Him, Chaim Zoch. Okay, so let's try and start. Let's a little bit of Perek Zayin. However, Nefesh Achiyunis Habamis Shabbos Yisrael, the life-giving animal soul of every Jew, Shemitzad HaKlipa, which comes from the side of Klipa. Remember, we said that the godly soul comes from Kiddush, and the animal soul of a Jew comes from Klipa. But Klipas Lega, Hamalubeshes V'dam Ha'olam Kanal, which is enclosed in the blood of man, as we spoke about in the first chapter, that the animal soul is B'nefesh Habasar V'dam, that the soul of flesh is in the blood. So that's what gives a person physical life. The nafsha is behemis, v'chayis, v'eifis, v'dagim, tahirim, u'matarim b'achil, as well as the souls of domesticated animals, wild animals, birds, and fish that are kosher and permissible to be eaten. V'kiyim v'chayis kol hadoimim v'chol hatzameach hamuter b'achila, and the sustenance, the life force within every inanimate object and every vegetable that may be. And as I think I pointed out in the last year, that one of the differences between the list of Shalosh Klipas Atmeis and the list of Klipas Noiga is the list of Shalosh Klipas Atmeis had humans, animals, and vegetables. But it didn't have any still inanimate objects. There's no still inanimate object which is naturally, automatically Shalosh Klipas Atmeis. While in the list of Klipas Noiga, we also have daimon. We also have still things, inanimate things that are also Klipas Noiga. And the reason for this, I explained, I believe, is because the hallmark of Kedusha is bittul, subservience. As we said, being dedicated to Hashem, being dedicated to a higher cause, a higher purpose. That's Kedusha. And the hallmark of Klippa is yeshus, being full of yourself. Well, me. So the doimim, the inanimate, the still, is by nature bituldik. It's very humble. It allows people to step on it. It doesn't rise. It doesn't lift itself. It doesn't express itself. So therefore, it can't be naturally shalosh klipas atmeis. The worst it could be is natural klipas nega. Of course, through an action, you can take an inanimate object and make it shalosh klipas atmeis. Like if you take an object and you say this is an idol worship, so then you're making it shalosh klipas atmeis by dedicating it to making an idol out of it. But in its natural state, it cannot be shalosh klipas atmeis. The maximum can be is klipas nega. So that is as far as objects are concerned. And then we're going to learn further about actions, speech, and thought. There are actions that are not godly. There's speech that are not godly. There are thoughts that are not godly, but they're also not forbidden. So they're in the middle somewhere. They're no man's land. That's shalosh klipas. That's klipas noiga. That's the transparent klipa. That getting those actions and those speech and those thoughts are getting their empowerment from klipas noiga. And as we're going to learn, the ideal thing is to elevate it from klipas noiga into kedusha by taking those parava actions and parava speech and parava thought and finding a way to use it to enhance our service of Hashem. As we will see in Mitzvah Hashem when we get back to this in the next year. We'll hold it over here.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.